Alright, so this is on the product rule, the quotient rule, and the trig rules that you need to know. It's a quick review before you're going to redo the quiz. Alright, so here's an example of the product rule. So obviously the product rule is when there's a product involved. Sorry. And so there's a rule, and the rule is, think of this as the first, and this is the second, and you go the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. And make sure you're adding in between. And that's what the product rule is. The quotient rule is when you're dividing, obviously. So if you have a quotient and you're dividing and you want to take the derivative, think of this as the bottom and as this as the top, and you start with the bottom. So it's the bottom times the derivative of the top, subtract the top times the derivative of the bottom, in case this is 1, and then you take the bottom and square it. All right, that's the quotient rule. And then the last is the trig rule. So what are the trig rules that we need to know? At least the 6 of them that you should know. So if I said, what's the derivative of cosine? That's negative sine. What's the derivative of sine? That's positive cosine. What's the derivative of tangent? That's secant squared. What's the derivative of secant? That has a partner, secant tangent. What is the derivative of, what's left? Cosecant. That's going to be negative, and it has a partner. So it starts with itself and its partner. And then the derivative of cotangent, it's going to be negative again, and it's negative cosecant squared. Notice that if it starts with a co, it's negative, and the others are positive, and we just need to know these derivative rules. So one last example. So let's say I have an example of the product rule with, if I have an example of the product rule with trigonometry, you would go the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. So there's the product rule using trigonometry. Or, I'll do one more. For the, let's say you have trigonometry with the quotient rule. So if you had trigonometry with the quotient rule, what's the rule is the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, and then the bottom squared. All right. Good luck on your quiz today.